Marcus was a struggling single dad with $3 in his pocket when he pushed a millionaire cancer patient out of the way and took the bullet meant for her. He thought he was just saving a stranger. He had no idea that one selfless moment would transform his daughter's life, heal a broken woman's heart, and create a family from strangers who became everything to each other. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. Marcus wiped the sweat from his forehead as he mopped the hospital floor. His hands were rough and calloused from years of hard work. At 42 years old, he looked older than his age. Deep lines carved his face, telling stories of sleepless nights and endless worry. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out with wet hands and saw a text from his daughter's school. "Mr. Thompson, Emma needs her medication. She forgot it at home again." Marcus closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Emma. His sweet 8-year-old daughter. The only light in his dark world. Ever since his wife Sarah died 3 years ago from a car accident, everything had fallen apart. But he kept going. For Emma. Always for Emma. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, he texted back, even though his shift didn't end for another 2 hours. Going somewhere, Thompson? Marcus turned to see his supervisor, Mr. Harrison, standing with his arms crossed. The man's face showed no sympathy, only annoyance. "Sir, my daughter needs her medication. I'll be back in 40 minutes, I promise. You left early twice last week. Once more and you're fired. We have standards here." Marcus felt anger rising in his chest, but he pushed it down. He needed this job. The hospital paid barely enough to cover rent and Emma's medical bills, but it was something. Emma had asthma and her inhalers weren't cheap. "Please, sir. She's only 8. She can't breathe without her medication." Mr. Harrison's expression didn't change. "Figure it out. Or find another job." Marcus stood there, his heart pounding. He thought about Emma, probably sitting in the nurse's office, struggling to breathe, scared and alone. He thought about the bills piling up on his kitchen table. He thought about the eviction notice he'd received yesterday. Then he made his choice. "I quit." The words came out before he could stop them. Mr. Harrison's eyebrows shot up in surprise, but Marcus was already untying his apron. He threw it on the cleaning cart and walked away without looking back. His hands shook as he drove to Emma's school. What had he done? How would they survive? But when he walked into the nurse's office and saw Emma's frightened face light up, he knew he'd made the right choice. "Daddy." She ran to him, wheezing slightly. He held her close, feeling her small body tremble. "I'm here, baby. I'm here." After giving her the inhaler and waiting for her breathing to steady, Marcus sat down beside her. Emma looked up at him with big brown eyes that reminded him so much of Sarah. "Daddy, are you okay? You look sad." He forced a smile. "I'm fine, princess. Just tired." But he wasn't fine. That night, after putting Emma to bed, Marcus sat at the kitchen table staring at the bills. Rent was due in 5 days. Emma needed new shoes. The electricity bill was overdue. And now he had no job. He put his head in his hands and let the tears come. Silent tears that he never let Emma see. He had to be strong for her. Always strong. The next morning, Marcus started looking for work. He dropped Emma at school and spent the day going from business to business, filling out applications. By evening, he had nothing to show for it except sore feet and a heavy heart. He was walking past St. Catherine's Hospital, the biggest hospital in the city, when he heard shouting. "Help! Someone help!" Without thinking, Marcus ran toward the sound. In the parking lot, he saw a well-dressed woman struggling with a man trying to grab her purse. But this wasn't just any robbery. The man had a gun. "Give me everything," the robber yelled. The woman was in her late 50s, wearing expensive clothes and jewelry. But what caught Marcus's attention was the medical bracelet on her wrist and the 4-port visible on her hand. She was a cancer patient. "Please," the woman said, her voice weak. "I just finished chemotherapy. Please don't hurt me." The robber didn't care. He raised the gun, pointing it directly at her chest. His finger moved toward the trigger. Marcus didn't think. He just moved. His body crashed into the woman, pushing her out of the way. The gun fired. The sound exploded in Marcus's ears like thunder. Pain erupted in his shoulder, white-hot and blinding. He hit the ground hard. The robber ran. Someone screamed. Footsteps rushed toward him. Marcus lay on the cold pavement, blood spreading beneath him. His vision blurred. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was the woman's face hovering over his, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Stay with me," she begged. "Please stay with me." Marcus woke to the sound of machines beeping. His shoulder burned with pain. Slowly he opened his eyes. He was in a hospital room. A nice one. Not the kind he could ever afford. The walls were painted a soft blue. Real curtains hung by the window, not the cheap plastic ones he'd seen in regular rooms. Fresh flowers sat on the bedside table. "You're awake." Marcus turned his head carefully. The woman from the parking lot sat in a chair beside his bed. She looked exhausted, but her eyes were kind. "Where am I?" His voice came out rough and dry. "St. Catherine's Hospital. The VIP wing." She stood up and poured him water from a pitcher. "I'm Victoria Ashford. You saved my life yesterday." Marcus tried to sit up, but pain shot through his shoulder. Victoria gently helped him, adjusting the pillows behind him. "My daughter," Marcus said suddenly, panic filling his chest. "Emma. What time is it?" "She needs someone to pick her up from school." "It's okay," Victoria said softly. "It's 7 in the evening. Your daughter is safe. When the paramedics found your phone, I saw her school as your emergency contact. I sent my driver to pick her up. She's in the waiting room with my assistant, Clara. They've had dinner." Marcus felt relief wash over him, followed immediately by embarrassment. "You didn't have to do that. I'm sorry for the trouble." "Trouble?" Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "You took a bullet for me. You pushed me out of the way and took the bullet that was meant for my heart. The doctor said if you hadn't pushed me, I would have died. That bullet would have killed me instantly." Marcus didn't know what to say. He had just reacted. He hadn't thought about dying or being a hero. He'd just seen someone in danger and moved. "The surgery went well," Victoria continued, wiping her eyes. "The bullet went through your shoulder but missed the major arteries. You'll need physical therapy, but you'll recover fully." "How much?" Marcus asked quietly. "How much is all this going to cost?" Victoria shook her head. "Nothing. I'm covering everything. Your surgery, your recovery, your medication. Everything." "I can't let you do that." "You can and you will." Victoria's voice was firm but gentle. "Marcus, do you know who I am?" He shook his head. "I'm the CEO of Ashford Industries. I'm worth $300 million. And none of that mattered yesterday when that gun was pointed at me. I was just a scared cancer patient who thought she was going to die. You gave me my life back. You have no idea what you did." She paused, taking a shaky breath. 6 months ago, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. I've been fighting it ever since. Yesterday was my last chemotherapy session. My doctor told me that if I stay in remission for the next 6 months, I'll likely beat this thing. You saved a life that was just learning to hope again." Marcus felt tears building in his own eyes. "I have a daughter. If someone hurt her, I'd want someone to help. That's all." Victoria smiled through her tears. "Tell me about your daughter." And Marcus did. He told her about Emma. About Sarah's death. About losing his job. About the bills and the eviction notice. Words poured out of him like water breaking through a dam. He hadn't talked to anyone like this since Sarah died. Victoria listened to everything. She didn't interrupt. She didn't judge. She just listened. When Marcus finished, Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I lost someone too. My husband died 5 years ago. Heart attack. We never had children. He was my everything." "I'm sorry," Marcus said. "Me too." Victoria wiped her eyes again. "After he died, I buried myself in work. I built the company bigger and bigger, thinking success would fill the hole in my heart. It didn't. And then came the cancer diagnosis. Suddenly, all that money, all that success meant nothing. I was facing death alone." She looked directly at Marcus. "Yesterday, a man with nothing sacrificed himself for a woman with everything. That means something, Marcus. That means everything." The next morning, Emma was allowed to visit. The little girl burst through the door and ran to her father's bed, careful not to hurt his injured shoulder. "Daddy, you're a hero." Marcus hugged her with his good arm, breathing in the sweet smell of her hair. "I'm just your daddy, princess." Victoria watched them with a soft smile. When Emma finally pulled back, she noticed the older woman for the first time. "Are you the lady my daddy saved?" Emma asked, her eyes wide. "I am," Victoria said. "Your daddy is very brave." "I know," Emma said proudly. "He's the bravest person in the whole world." Victoria's eyes filled with tears again. She had cried more in the past 2 days than she had in years. Over the next week, Victoria visited Marcus every day. She got to know Emma, bringing her books and toys. She learned that Emma loved to draw, that her favorite color was purple, that she wanted to be a veterinarian when she grew up. Marcus tried to protest the attention, but Victoria wouldn't hear it. "You gave me my life," she would say. "Let me help you with yours." When Marcus was finally released from the hospital, Victoria had a surprise waiting. She'd paid his rent for 6 months, cleared all his medical bills, and deposited $50,000 into his bank account. Marcus stood in Victoria's office, overwhelmed. "I can't accept this. It's too much." "It's not enough," Victoria said firmly. "Marcus, I've been thinking. I need a personal assistant. Someone I can trust. Someone with integrity. Someone who would literally take a bullet for me." Marcus stared at her. "Are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering you a position. Personal assistant to the CEO of Ashford Industries. The salary is $150,000 a year. Health insurance for you and Emma. A company car. And flexible hours so you can always be there for your daughter." Marcus felt dizzy. $150,000? That was more money than he'd ever imagined making. That was enough to give Emma everything she needed. Everything Sarah had wanted for her. "Why?" he whispered. "Why would you do this?" Victoria's expression softened. "Because in the darkest moment of my life, when I thought I was going to die, you showed me that good people still exist. You showed me that heroism isn't about having power or money. It's about choosing to do the right thing even when it costs you everything. I want that kind of person beside me. Not just as an employee. As a friend." Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. For 3 years he'd carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. He'd struggled and fought and barely survived. And now, because of one moment, one choice, everything was changing. "I accept," he said quietly. "Thank you. Thank you so much." Victoria smiled. "No, Marcus. Thank you." The next 6 months changed Marcus's life in ways he never imagined. He started working for Victoria, learning the business from the ground up. She was a patient teacher, showing him how to manage her schedule, handle correspondence, coordinate meetings. But it was more than just a job. Victoria became family. She attended Emma's school plays. She took them both out for dinner every Friday. She taught Emma to play chess. She became the grandmother figure that Emma had never had. For Victoria, having Marcus and Emma in her life filled a void she hadn't realized was so deep. She had money, success, and power, but she'd been lonely. Now she had people who cared about her not because of her wealth, but because of who she was. One evening, Marcus was working late in Victoria's home office when she walked in with 2 cups of tea. "You work too hard," she said, handing him a cup. "I learned from the best," Marcus replied with a smile. Victoria sat down across from him. "I got my test results today." Marcus's heart stopped. Victoria had been in remission for 4 months, but every test still brought anxiety. "And?" he asked, barely breathing. Victoria's face broke into the biggest smile he'd ever seen. "I'm clear. Completely clear. The cancer is gone." Marcus jumped up, ignoring the twinge in his healing shoulder, and hugged her. They both cried, holding each other like family. "You did it," Marcus said. "You beat it." "We did it," Victoria corrected. "If you hadn't been there that day, I wouldn't be here now. You gave me a second chance at life, Marcus. And I'm going to live it fully." That night, Victoria gathered Marcus and Emma together. She had something important to say. "I've been thinking about my legacy," Victoria began. "I have no children. No close family. When I die, all my money will go to various charities, which is fine. But I want to do something more. Something that matters now." She pulled out some papers. "I'm establishing the Sarah Thompson Foundation, named after Emma's mother. It will help single parents who are struggling just like Marcus was. We'll provide financial assistance, job training, childcare support. Everything that could have helped your family when you needed it most." Marcus couldn't speak. His throat was too tight with emotion. "And," Victoria continued, "I'm making you the director. You'll run the foundation. You'll be the one helping families like yours." "Victoria, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll help me change lives the way you changed mine." Marcus looked at Emma, who was smiling up at him with pride. He thought about Sarah, and how happy she would be to know that her name would live on helping others. "Yes," he said. "Yes, I'll do it." Not everyone was happy about Marcus's success. Victoria's nephew, Richard Ashford, had always expected to inherit his aunt's fortune. He was a spoiled 35-year-old who had never worked a real day in his life. When he heard about the foundation and Victoria's growing closeness to Marcus and Emma, he was furious. "He's using you," Richard said one day, confronting Victoria in her office. "Can't you see it? He saved your life and now he's manipulating you. He wants your money." Victoria's expression turned cold. "Marcus has never asked me for anything. Every opportunity I've given him, I've offered freely. He took a bullet for you. Very convenient, wasn't it?" For all we know, he staged the whole thing. Get out, Victoria said quietly, but her voice was steel. Get out of my office and don't come back until you can show some decency. You're making a mistake, Richard hissed. Mark my words, this will end badly. After he left, Victoria sat down heavily. She'd always known Richard was selfish, but this was too much. Still, his words planted a tiny seed of doubt. Not about Marcus's character, but about whether her attachment to him and Emma was clouding her judgment. That evening she found Marcus in the foundation office, working on grant applications long after everyone else had gone home. Why are you still here? She asked. Marcus looked up, surprised. Oh hi. I wanted to finish these applications. There's a single mom in District 7 who lost her job. She has 3 kids and she's about to be evicted. I wanted to make sure we could help her by Friday. Victoria watched him work, his brow furrowed in concentration, completely absorbed in helping someone he'd never met. And in that moment, any doubt Richard had planted vanished completely. Richard came to see me today, she said. Marcus looked up, concerned. Is everything okay? He thinks you're using me. He thinks you saved my life to get my money. Marcus went pale. Victoria, I swear. I know, she interrupted gently. I know who you are, Marcus. I've watched you for 6 months. I've seen how you treat Emma. I've seen how hard you work. I've seen you give your bonus to a homeless family because they needed it more than you did. Richard doesn't understand that people like you exist because he's never been one himself. Marcus relaxed slightly. I would never take advantage of you. I know. But I want you to understand something. Everything I've done for you, I've done because I wanted to. Not because I feel obligated, not because you saved my life. I've done it because you and Emma have become my family. The family I never had. That's worth more than all the money in the world. Marcus felt tears in his eyes again. You're family to us too. Victoria smiled. Good. Because I have one more surprise for you. A week later, Victoria invited Marcus and Emma to her lawyer's office. Marcus was confused but went along. The lawyer, Mr. Peterson, was a kind-faced man in his 60s. He shook Marcus's hand warmly. Mr. Thompson, I've heard wonderful things about you. Please sit down. Once they were all seated, Mr. Peterson pulled out a thick document. Ms. Ashford has asked me to make some changes to her estate planning, he began. I want to make sure you understand everything clearly. Marcus looked at Victoria, confused. She just smiled and nodded for Mr. Peterson to continue. Ms. Ashford is establishing a trust fund for Emma Thompson, the lawyer said. This trust will provide for Emma's education, healthcare, and living expenses until she turns 25. At that time, she will receive the full balance, which is currently set at $5 million. Marcus gasped. $5 million? Victoria, no. That's too much. It's not enough, Victoria said firmly. Emma is a brilliant, kind child who deserves every opportunity. This will ensure she never has to struggle like you did. There's more, Mr. Peterson continued. Ms. Ashford is also transferring ownership of her secondary residence to you, Marcus. The house is worth approximately $2 million. It has 5 bedrooms, so there's plenty of space for Emma to grow up in. Marcus couldn't breathe. He looked at Victoria, tears streaming down his face. Why are you doing this? Victoria leaned forward, taking his hands in hers. Because that day in the parking lot, you didn't think about what you might lose. You didn't calculate the risk or weigh the cost. You just saw someone who needed help and you helped. That's who you are. That's who you'll always be. And I want to make sure that you and Emma are taken care of always. But we're not your responsibility, Marcus protested. You're not my responsibility, Victoria agreed. You're my family. There's a difference. Family takes care of each other. That's what you taught me. Emma, who had been quietly listening, suddenly spoke up. Does this mean we get to stay with Miss Victoria forever? Victoria knelt down to Emma's level. If that's okay with you, sweetheart. I know I can never replace your mommy. But I would be honored to be part of your family. Emma threw her arms around Victoria's neck. I love you, Miss Victoria. I love you too, sweet girl. Marcus watched them embrace and his heart felt so full it might burst. 3 years ago he'd lost everything. He'd been broken, hopeless, struggling to survive. And now, because of one moment of courage, his life had transformed completely. But it wasn't just about the money or the house or the security. It was about finding family again. It was about Emma having a grandmother who loved her. It was about belonging somewhere. There's one more thing, Victoria said, standing up. I'm making you a full partner in Ashford Industries. 20% ownership. You'll be on the board of directors. Victoria, I can't run a company. I don't have the education or the experience. You have something better, Victoria said. You have integrity, compassion, and the ability to see what really matters. Those things can't be taught. The rest you'll learn. I'll teach you just like I've been teaching you. And someday when I'm gone, you'll run this company and the foundation, and you'll do it with the same heart you've shown me every single day. Marcus shook his head in wonder. I don't deserve any of this. You deserve all of it and more, Victoria said firmly. You saved my life, Marcus. Not just in that parking lot but every day since. You gave me a reason to keep fighting. You showed me what family feels like. You can't put a price on that. But Richard Ashford wasn't finished. He'd spent weeks fuming over Victoria's decisions and finally he decided to take action. He hired a private investigator to dig into Marcus's past, hoping to find anything, that would prove Marcus was a con man. But the investigator came back with nothing. Marcus was exactly who he appeared to be, a good man who'd had bad luck. Frustrated, Richard decided on a different approach. If he couldn't destroy Marcus's reputation, he'd destroy him financially. He used his connections to have Marcus audited by the IRS, hoping to tie him up in legal troubles. When the audit notice came, Marcus was terrified. He'd never dealt with anything like this before. But Victoria stood by his side, hiring the best tax lawyers money could buy. The audit took 3 months. In the end they found nothing wrong. Marcus had reported every penny honestly. But the stress took its toll. Marcus barely slept, terrified that he'd somehow made a mistake that would cost him everything. One night, Victoria found him in the foundation office at 2 a.m, going through receipts for the 10th time. Marcus, stop, she said gently. You haven't done anything wrong. What if I made a mistake? Marcus said, his voice breaking. What if I lose everything? What if they take the house? Emma loves that house. It's the first real home she's had since Sarah died. Even if the worst happens, which it won't, I'll make sure Emma is okay. You both will be okay. I promise you that. Why does he hate me so much? Marcus asked. I never did anything to him. Victoria sighed. Richard doesn't hate you. He hates what you represent. You earned my trust and respect by being a good person. He spent his whole life waiting to inherit my money without ever earning anything himself. Your existence shows him what he could have been and he can't stand it. The next day Richard made his final move. He went to the press with a twisted version of the story. He claimed that Marcus had staged the robbery, that he'd known the gunman, and that the whole thing was an elaborate con to get Victoria's money. The story made the news. Reporters camped outside Marcus's house. Emma came home from school crying because other kids were calling her dad a liar. Marcus was devastated. Everything he'd built was crumbling. Not the money or the position but the respect and trust he'd earned. That's what hurt the most. Victoria was furious. She held a press conference the next day. I am here to address the ridiculous allegations made by my nephew, she said, her voice strong and clear. Marcus Thompson is the most honest man I have ever known. The police investigated the robbery thoroughly. The gunman was caught 3 days later and confessed. He had no connection to Marcus whatsoever. These allegations are nothing but the bitter lies of a jealous man who can't stand to see goodness rewarded. She paused, looking directly at the cameras. I am proud to call Marcus my friend and my family. He saved my life without hesitation, and he has enriched my life every day since. Anyone who tries to tear him down will answer to me. The next day Richard's lies were exposed. The police released their full report, proving Marcus's innocence. News outlets that had run the story issued apologies. Richard was forced to make a public retraction. But he wasn't done yet. 2 weeks later, Marcus was working late at Ashford Industries when Richard appeared at his office door. The man looked drunk, his eyes bloodshot, his expensive suit rumpled. You destroyed my life, Richard slurred. Marcus stood up slowly. I never did anything to you, Richard. This is all your own doing. My aunt cut me out of her will because of you. Everything was supposed to be mine. She didn't cut you out because of me. She cut you out because of your own actions. You tried to destroy an innocent person because you were jealous. That says everything about who you are. Richard stumbled forward, rage contorting his features. You're nothing. You're a janitor who got lucky. You don't deserve any of this. You're right, Marcus said quietly. I don't deserve it. I didn't ask for it. But I'm grateful for it, and I'm trying every day to be worthy of Victoria's trust and generosity. That's the difference between us, Richard. I appreciate what I have. You only see what you think you're owed. I'll make you pay, Richard threatened. I'll find a way to destroy you. No, came Victoria's voice from the doorway. You won't. Richard spun around. Victoria stood there with 2 security guards and a police officer. Richard, you're trespassing. You're also intoxicated and making threats. You have 2 choices. You can leave now and never come near Marcus or Emma again, or I'll press charges. Richard's face crumpled. For a moment he looked less like an angry man and more like a lost child. You're really choosing him over me? I'm your family. Family isn't about blood, Victoria said sadly. It's about love, respect, and sacrifice. Marcus has shown me more of those things in 6 months than you have in 35 years. I'm sorry, Richard. I'm sorry you never learned that what matters most can't be bought or inherited. It has to be earned. The security guards escorted Richard out. They never saw him again. Later, Marcus heard that Richard moved to Europe, trying to start fresh away from the scandal. That night, Victoria, Marcus, and Emma had dinner together at the new house. It was a quiet, peaceful meal, just the 3 of them. I'm sorry you had to go through all that, Victoria said to Marcus. It's okay, Marcus replied. Some things are worth fighting for. Emma, who had been coloring at the table, looked up. Are we safe now, Daddy? Marcus pulled her close. Yes, Princess, we're safe. We're home. And we have each other. That's all that matters. 1 year after the shooting, Victoria threw a party. Not a fancy corporate event, but a simple gathering at Marcus's house. She'd invited the families that the Sarah Thompson Foundation had helped over the past year. There was Maria, the single mom with 3 kids who'd been about to be evicted. Now she had a stable job in her own apartment. There was James, a widower with twin boys who'd lost his job after his wife died. Now he was back on his feet, working as an accountant again. There were dozens of families, all with their own stories of struggle and survival. Marcus stood on the back porch watching Emma play with the other children. She was laughing, truly laughing, in a way she hadn't since Sarah died. Victoria came to stand beside him. She looked healthy now, her hair grown back after chemotherapy, color in her cheeks. She'd beaten the cancer. She'd gotten her second chance at life and she was living it fully. Look at what you built, she said, gesturing to the families in the yard. We built it together, Marcus corrected. No, Victoria said firmly. This all started with you. Your courage, your sacrifice. You changed my life, and through me you've changed all their lives. Do you understand what that means, Marcus? You're a hero. Not just to me but to all these people. Marcus shook his head. I'm just a man who tried to do the right thing. That's what makes you a hero, Victoria said. Real heroes don't do it for the glory or the reward. They do it because it's right. That's you, Marcus. That's who you've always been. Later that evening, after the guest had gone home, Victoria asked Marcus and Emma to sit with her. She had something important to say. I've been thinking about the future, she began. I'm 60 years old. I beat cancer, but I'm not immortal. Someday I'll be gone. And I need to know that everything I've built will be in good hands. Victoria, don't talk like that, Marcus said. Shush, let me finish, she said with a smile. I've updated my will. When I die, Ashford Industries will be yours, Marcus. All of it. You'll be CEO. You'll control the company and the foundation. Everything will be yours. Victoria, I can't. You can and you will. I've spent the last year training you. You know the business inside and out. More importantly, you know what matters. You'll run this company with integrity and compassion. You'll use its resources to help people just like we've been doing with the foundation. I trust you completely. Marcus had tears in his eyes. What about Richard? Won't he contest it? He can try, but the will is ironclad. And more importantly, I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure everyone knows what kind of man you are. When I die, there won't be any question that you've earned every bit of this. Emma, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. Miss Victoria, does this mean you're going to be our real grandma? Victoria's eyes filled with tears. She pulled Emma close. Sweetheart, I've been your real grandma from the moment your daddy saved my life. That will never change whether I'm here or not. That night, after putting Emma to bed, Marcus sat in his living room and thought about everything that had happened. A year ago, he'd been a janitor facing eviction, struggling to feed his daughter. He'd been broken and hopeless. And then came that moment in the parking lot. One decision. One split second. Push Victoria out of the way or let the bullet hit her. He hadn't thought about it. He just acted. That single moment had changed everything. But it wasn't just the money or the house or the company. Those things were wonderful, but they weren't what mattered most. What mattered was family. Real family. The kind that Sarah had always wanted for Emma. The kind that Marcus had thought they'd lost forever when Sarah died. Victoria had given them that. She'd become Emma's grandmother, Marcus's mentor, and both of their dearest friend. She'd shown them that family wasn't just about blood. It was about love, sacrifice, and choosing each other every single day. Marcus pulled out his phone and looked at his screensaver. It was a photo from last month. Him, Emma, and Victoria at Emma's 9th birthday party. They were all laughing, covered in cake frosting, happy in a way that felt eternal. He thought about Sarah, and he knew she'd be proud. Not just of how far he'd come, but of the man he'd become. The father he was to Emma. The friend he was to Victoria. The bullet scar on his shoulder would fade eventually. But the love that had grown from that moment would last forever. 5 years after the shooting, Marcus stood at a podium in front of 500 people. The Sarah Thompson Foundation was celebrating its anniversary, and they had a lot to celebrate. In 5 years they'd helped over 10,000 families. They'd prevented hundreds of evictions. They'd provided job training to thousands of single parents. They'd sent over 100 kids to college who never could have afforded it otherwise. Emma, now 13 years old, sat in the front row beside Victoria. Both of them beamed with pride as Marcus spoke. 5 years ago, I was a janitor who could barely keep a roof over his daughter's head, Marcus said. I was broken, hopeless, and scared. And then came one moment that changed everything. Not because I wanted to be a hero, but because I saw someone who needed help and I couldn't just stand by. He looked at Victoria. What I didn't know was that the woman I helped that day would save my life just as much as I saved hers. Victoria Ashford didn't just give me a job or money or opportunities. She gave me back my family. She showed me that even in the darkest times, goodness exists. Love exists. Hope exists. Victoria wiped tears from her eyes. At 65 she was still healthy, still vibrant, still fighting to make the world better every single day. This foundation bears my late wife's name, Marcus continued. Sarah Thompson was the kindest person I ever knew. She believed that everyone deserves a second chance. She believed that we're all connected, that when we help one person we help everyone. This foundation is her legacy. Every family we help, we do it in her name. We do it because she taught me that love is the most powerful force in the world. After the speech, a young woman approached Marcus. She was in her mid-20s, well-dressed, confident. But her eyes were familiar. Mr. Thompson? I don't know if you remember me. I'm Maria. You helped my family 5 years ago. My mom was about to be evicted. We had nothing. Marcus smiled. Of course I remember. You had 2 little brothers. How is everyone? My mom has her own cleaning business now. She's doing great. My brothers are in high school, both on the honor roll. And me? I just graduated from law school. I started a nonprofit next month helping families just like mine. She paused, tears in her eyes. I came here today to tell you that you didn't just save my family. You showed us that people still care. That goodness still exists. You gave us hope when we had none left. And now I'm going to spend my life doing the same thing for others. Marcus hugged her. That's what it's all about. Passing it forward. Creating a chain of kindness that never ends. That night, Marcus, Emma, and Victoria had dinner together like they did every Friday. It was their tradition, their sacred time together. Daddy, Emma said, I've been thinking about what I want to do when I grow up. Veterinarian, right? Marcus asked. I changed my mind. I want to run the foundation. I want to help people like you and Miss Victoria do. Is that okay? Marcus felt his throat tighten. He looked at Victoria, who was openly crying happy tears. Princess, that would make your mom and me prouder than anything else in the world. After dinner, the 3 of them sat together in the living room. No TV, no phones, just being together. Emma fell asleep with her head on Victoria's lap, worn out from the busy day. She's going to do amazing things, Victoria whispered, gently stroking Emma's hair. Thanks to you, Marcus said. Thanks to you, Victoria corrected. You took a bullet for a stranger. You changed the world by choosing kindness over self-preservation. Everything that came after was just the universe recognizing your courage. Do you ever regret it? Marcus asked. Taking in a broke janitor and his daughter? Changing your whole life. Victoria looked at him like he was crazy. Regret it? Marcus, you gave me a family. You gave me a purpose beyond just making money. You taught me what really matters. These past 5 years have been the happiest of my life. How could I ever regret that? She paused, looking down at Emma's sleeping face. You know what I think about sometimes? That gunman in the parking lot. He thought he was just robbing someone. He had no idea he was setting in motion a chain of events that would change thousands of lives. That's the thing about moments, Marcus. We never know which ones will matter. Which ones will define us. Which ones will ripple outward and touch the world. All we can do is make the best choice we can in that moment, Marcus said. And you made the right one. You always make the right one. That's why I trust you with my legacy. That's why I know the foundation and the company will thrive when I'm gone. Because you don't do things for profit or glory. You do them because they're right. Marcus reached over and took Victoria's hand. I don't know what Emma and I did to deserve you, but I thank God every day that you're in our lives. I'm the lucky one, Victoria said. That day in the parking lot, you didn't just save my life. You saved my soul. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Emma sleep. Outside, the world kept spinning. The foundation kept helping families. The company kept growing. But in this moment, in this room, everything was perfect. A single dad who took a bullet. A millionaire who learned what really matters. A little girl who found a grandmother. 3 people who became a family not through blood but through love. And it all started with one moment of courage. One decision to help instead of walk away. One man who proved that heroes don't wear capes or have superpowers. Sometimes, heroes are just ordinary people who choose to do extraordinary things. That's the story of how a bullet wound became a blessing. How a tragedy became a triumph. How 3 broken hearts found wholeness together. Because in the end, that's what love does. It heals. It transforms. It saves. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, it gives us a second chance at everything we thought we'd lost. In loving memory of all the single parents who fight impossible battles every day for their children. You're heroes. Every single one of you.